how you believe that miracles can happen even today when that miracle may not be necessary because you could get medical treatment to cure that in a way or substitute that. I agree with you. The bottom line is that those miracles are available today. But the thing is, you have to understand the whole ambiance of people's psychology. There has to be sort of set up. There has to be set up of people's minds. If people's minds are not set up, they're not prepared, they're not expecting, things don't seem to happen that much. It happened really a lot in Jesus' case. It happens a lot in the countries where they are really needy for that because they don't have that kind of luxury of medical insurance and medical technology and all that. It seems to happen more there. Why? And why is it not happening in the Western world as much? Because just we don't think that way. We don't feel like that's absolutely necessary. We set ourselves up for, like, if I have like pain, I'm going to go for Tylenol, right? I'm going to go for I go to the the drugstore and immediately I have to get something. We don't bother to really believe. Now, if you don't have those medicine, then you only have prayer. But if you have medicine, then you got prayer and medicine. And that has a way of kind of diluting the whole thing. And I'm not advocating that faith of this person necessarily. But what I'm saying, as I mentioned before, is the faith of the whole community or faith of the whole generation that does affect it, right? And then, of course, we leave room for God to sovereignly intervene, like you said, with His time, His will. I totally believe that. So when things don't happen, let's not blame somebody's lack of faith. Or that person was lacking faith. You're doubly condemning that person when you're accusing that person of not being healed because of lack of faith. You don't know that. It could be your lack of faith. Who knows? Your lack of prayer for that person, lack of compassion. Who knows? We can't go around, persecuting people even more. And so just know that there is a generational thing that comes upon the whole nation of people that affects their psyche, whereby there's not going to happen that much. Because Jesus said the same thing about this one town. There's no faith here, and people don't expect it. So He couldn't do much healing. He didn't just go anywhere and just did it. He could, but He didn't do it because they did not invite Jesus into their midst. And if you don't invite Jesus into your midst, you don't invite the Holy Spirit into your midst, then you're not opening up for healings to happen. Okay, that would be my comment to you, Mentab. Okay?
Professor.
Yes.
I would just like to add one thing into it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I do believe personally, if I'm sick or something like that, honestly, instead of praying, I go and take medicine.
Yeah.
Honestly. Even yesterday, I went to the hospital for my eyes thing and all that.
I mean, I do that too. I feel really, and so what that happens in my mind. So I don't expect God to answer it because I already diluted my faith anyway. So I try to pray, but in my mind I'm divided. I pray, but if I don't have anything but God, then I know that He's my lifeline. But really, I got few other lifelines just in case. It's like a person who climbs up a high cliff with all the security belts, just in case you fall and it's going to catch you. But faith is like somebody who doesn't have any safe line.
Yeah, so
you totally rely upon God for that. So what I'm saying is there is a difference. That factor is a natural factor. That's difference. That's why this whole generation after Enlightenment, there's less and less and less. Things like that happen, except for the times of spiritual revival happening. Then things happen, because of course in the midst of that kind of Holy Spirit explosion, people are going to be affected. But when people are operating with their cognitive and rationalistic mindset, and with especially cessationist mentality, don't expect anything then. And so I'm just telling you that we have bought into that too. You guys have been brainwashed by the rationalistic, educational, system of the West. I grew up in the West. So I know my limitations. To be honest, I would have very difficult time believing that if my arm got cut off, that this arm could just regenerate, and including fingers and fingertips were all developed. I would really have a hard time believing that, because I know science too much. You may develop a lump, you know what I'm saying? But not the fingers coming out, like, what? That can't happen. But that does happen. Those kind of miracles do happen. But I know that I have a limitation because of my knowledge. That's my liability. I'm just telling you, I have to be realistic about this. I can't change how I grew up, so unless I can empty all that and go really primitive, be ignorant of that, it's going to be difficult. All right?
Professor,
So, yes.
My point is, even though there is medication
Yeah.
as well, but there are some, what you can say, there are some points, or there are some times when in that medication, God willingly, He proves us.
Absolutely. I have no doubt believing that. I believe that's the mode that I'm operating. But what I'm saying is that we have too many things that we depend on. That God is just one of those options. And when God is just one, God may tolerate that. But doesn't God, when you look at the Bible, doesn't God usually go for the people who don't have anything but God? They got no other alternative. God, those are the people who Jesus seems to, quickly administer to. But when they have Jesus, like the rich man, I got money and I want God. He said, can you give all that away and just give your allegiance to me? The rich young ruler went away sadly, and Jesus was sad to see that. He knew his heart, he knew his intention, but he couldn't give it away, so he can't give his heart 100% to Jesus. And Jesus was sad. I mean, we are in sad situation today because we got so much going for us. We got insurance, health insurance, we got life insurance, we got hospital right next door. We got all these drugstores in Korea, is notorious for that, and things can be easily fixed up, And you got your own dean who's a medical doctor, and so you got all this safety zone that you're in. Why would you go for a miracle? Yeah, I'm just playing the devil's advocate. That's all I'm saying. I apply that same, critique upon myself. But somehow it has to change. And in the mission field, it's much more easy. When I go to the mission field, it's so much easier to just go all out, believing. But when I come back home, I'm like Clark Kent all over again. I'm not Superman anymore, I'm Clark Kent. I can be more like Superman when I'm out there. The saying, Jesus said that even a prophet is not honored in his own hometown. Even Jesus could not change the minds of his relatives and even his siblings. Remember that. Okay? All right, anyway, let's move on.